This podcast is brought to you by Sandlot Partners.
Yeah, that's the hard part of the business I have a hard time talking about. I try not to get too emotional because you've probably been there. I know you've had similar stuff, but you really talk about the dark days when I didn't have water, calling the water company and be like, hey, I've got a little kid, I just need the water on. It's tough.
Welcome back to Case Studies. I'm here with my friend Dan Hardle, the legend of the insurance industry.
TBD, right?
I like a living legend. So when we were kind of diving into your journey, it was so fun for me because our origins were pretty similar. So like you did door-to-door sales, and you had a really fun story about like your mentor, like the one of the first guys that kind of blew your mind as like, oh, I need to work smarter and not harder.
100%.
And so there's some fun places I'd like to go, but I guess first and foremost, just thanks for coming out.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I'm not a stranger to podcasts, but happy to be on. Love talking about the business, and same thing. Love kind of the newfound relationship connecting over the last couple months. It's been exciting.
Been talking airplanes. We've been talking
a little bit
homes,
golf,
some fishing. So that there's like a lot of common interests.
Very important things here.
Very like kind of the most important things. So talk to me about February 2026. What is life for Dan Hardle right now?
It's still chaos. It's really busy. There is no shortage of work, which is a good thing. Could be the other way, but just did a transaction of my company last year. So I'm the CEO of Agent Boost Marketing, the founder, CEO, still in that role, running and operating my company.
And talk to me about your company. It's Agent Boost, insurance, built it from the ground up.
From nothing, yes.
Like literally started it kind of from nothing.
Yes.
And built that for how many years?
Technically, since I filed an LLC, it's been now like 13 years.
So 13 years.
But I've been in the insurance space for since 2007. So almost 19 years.
Yeah. So 19 years in the space, learning the business, but 13 years where you kind of said, I want to go plant my own flag and I want to go do it for myself.
Yep. About accurate.
So you go all that time, and like, I want to get into there's a bunch of places I want to go in this podcast. Living lean, entrepreneurship, the grind or the struggle, the hard times.
Yep.
And then also like how to sell a business. I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs that are somewhere in that process, and it's really hard to sell a business.
It is. I've learned a lot too. Like we learn all the time. I think the thing that the most common attribute that most successful people have is they're always learning. They're always learning. And that's the one thing that I'm still focusing on. When you talk about where am I, going back to your original question in February 2026.
Yeah, right now.
I am still learning, right? As somebody who just came on the other side of a transaction for the first time and understanding how to continue operating my core business while having a lot of other assets and doing estate and legacy planning, and also personal finances that are significant and managing those. Still
family office,
and
like actually like building out. I think this is like another like really interesting topic to go down. Is that
putting all those pieces together?
Well,
right,
it's that transition from like my whole net worth is this business, to now I actually have a second business, which is my family office.
Correct.
And allocating capital.
So I'm having to do both of those, right? And together juggle those, and then at the end of it, be the best husband that I can be and the best dad that I can be.
Yep.
Still.
And young kids still.
Yeah. So I got 3 kids. I got 3 boys, oldest being 18, youngest 13.
Yeah.
So it's fun. We have.
You're right in the middle of it.
You would appreciate this. We have a perfect golf foursome. When we go. So
do they golf?
Yeah.
Like, will they go play?
Absolutely.
That's my dream as a dad.
Yeah. I mean, not well. But they all play.
Honestly, it's my dream to like get my kids to love golf.
Oh yeah.
Just so that I can go play with them. Like we go out to Cabo now quite a bit.
Yeah.
And it's, some courses aren't very kid friendly.
Right.
But the one that we go to, it's like super kid friendly. So it's literally taking my boys out for like 2 holes giving them candy, hit 3 balls, but I'm just trying to like, hey, go have a good experience and love this and ask, I want to get them to like be asking me to go out and play, you know what I mean? Because I just love it so much.
Well, I've told all my kids that, I'm in a different position than when I grew up, but it's a life skill, just like you learn to swim or anything else.
Yep.
Whether you are passionate and love golf, just being able to do it and know how the sport works and the etiquette and being able to go to a course and know how to do that as far as business networking, it's just having like a life skill. So,
for sure.
But we do it like Sundays. That's our thing.
So fun.
I'll take the boys. Sundays we'll go golf. And then when it's crappy weather, it's skiing, snowboarding.
Yeah.
This year has an asterisk, not really much.
Hey, but just got pounded.
Yeah.
Just barely. Like, have you guys got after it?
I haven't, not yet. So next week, I'll be out of town this week, but then next week we'll be back and
got it.
I'm going to do my first turns next week.
So going back to kind of that original question, what was the day-to-day and what is the day-to-day?
So you always think that like you can't be busier. You always feel busy.
Yeah.
And then you think, how am I ever going to do more and how am I going to have more capacity? But as you learn and grow and become more proficient, you figure out how to do more and how to triage your time and what you can delegate and who you can train. And so I'm just finding in my day-to-day, I'm just constantly looking for things that I'm doing throughout the day that don't have to be me and who can I delegate those things to. And so I'm constantly just going through that exercise of how can I, replicate myself and who can I train?
How is it going? Like, is it natural for you or is it hard?
It's hard to let things go, right? Like I think all of us, you especially when you start from nothing and you're the founder and you're used to doing all the things, it is hard, especially things that you like. There are things that I enjoy
that you're delegating.
Yeah, about the business and life and relationships. And when you're a salesperson, naturally, you enjoy that interaction. Look, nobody wants to give up these fun interactions that you have with your insurance agents or your partners and the FaceTime you get with them to go be on a call with the legal team or to go through like your monthly financial. That stuff is very important. It's more important as far as the use of your time, but you hate giving up some of the things you actually enjoy in the business, right? So I would say mixed results. It's going well. Some people are very great in identifying opportunities. They see that, there's opportunities for them to grow and excel. They're, stepping up and taking those opportunities. Other people, they just either have the Peter principle, and they've kind of hit their threshold of where they're going to be in the business, or they just don't have the desire or the capacity to want to grow. Yeah. So, but that's kind of what you feel out over time. And,
it's really cool. Those life cycles of a business are so fascinating to me.
Oh yeah.
Because you kind of, you go from being like a little infant, you're just trying to survive, to being kind of a teenager where you're probably overly confident. You think you can do things you probably shouldn't be doing.
Right.
Then you kind of get into that stage of like midlife where you're kind of in your prime. You're just ripping it. And it feels like that's kind of where you're at in your business now, where you've got past kind of the teenage stage and you get into like this like sweet spot of like, oh wow, I can do this job and not just do it like, I'm really good at it, and I think when you get there, that's a fun place to be in the business cycle.
Yeah. I think most people, you never know where you're actually going to end up in the business. I think when we all start off, like, when we talked, weeks ago, you're just looking for a means to an end, right? When you first get into a business or you're starting something.
Surviving.
Yeah, that's it. Like you're not thinking about where the business, you hope you have these dreams and aspirations, but you don't always know where you're going to be 10, 20 years later. And, you kind of get past those tough years where you're figuring it out and you start to figure out it's not just necessarily like the confidence builder, but you really start to learn that all those things that you questioned about yourself, you didn't know if you could achieve them, you didn't know if you could do them. Those were all things that you put in place yourself. Like that there weren't really those barriers, those limits, those boundaries. You were those insecurities and those hard things, that was you. And once you figure that out, there just isn't a limit, right? Like those are the parameters that you put on yourself. And so once you kind of get past that, you're going, look, there's no limit. I can take the business as far as I want to take the business. But it takes, some people figure that out in a year or two. Some people, they never figure it out.
But you had a lot of opportunities to exit. Like you could have exited for 5 years, 7 years before. Like,
oh yeah,
that was kind of, you'd built a really attractive business, and we're kind of getting petitioned
Yeah.
all along the way, and it was just never that interesting to you. You know, what was kind of the point? And we'll go back to the origins of,
Yeah.
you know, where you started, because I actually think that's such a fun part of the journey. But like,
I'd agree.
what's your kind of psychology like
In doing the transaction?
Well, yeah,
a couple things.
it's your baby, you know. I think it's like entrepreneurship's really interesting because like that business is like your child, you know what I mean?
With my wife, she references it the other child, right? Like it is, right? You love it so much,
Yeah.
and it dictates so much of what you do and how you behave, and
A lot of
the
your identity. Yeah.
absolutely. And there are some people that's their only identity,
Yeah.
right? That's it. They don't have an identity outside of that. And I've tried to work hard to make sure that there's more substance and more to me than just the business.
Yep.
And you have to be methodical about that. You could easily let
Just
it
get
just
so caught up.
consume you. Yeah, absolutely. At the end of it, like I would tell anybody, the most important role that I have is to be a good dad and a good father. Those things matter to me more than being the best CEO. So you'll still see that, you know, ever since we even had, you know, little kids, you know, my wife was nursing, she'd like, you know, be up in the night. I would be the one to wake up early, spend time with the kids. That kind of naturally just stayed that way
Yeah.
throughout all my kids growing up, where
Yep.
I'm always up early and I'm the one who makes pancakes, is making breakfast for the kids, hanging
So
out with
cool.
them before they go off to school or whatnot. Caveat, I don't get up for my son's 5 o'clock lifts for football.
You don't do it?
Screw that. Not
Yeah.
5 o'clock, not that early. But I've always been the one to get up early.
But dude, how proud does it make you as a dad when you see your kid grinding? Like
Yeah,
I
love it.
think that's like my favorite thing on the planet is when I see my kids doing hard things.
Oh yeah. It's you have to let them go through the pain.
Yeah.
You know, you could always it's tempting sometimes to step in and make things easier for them.
Protect them.
But, you know, you got to let them go through the struggle.
Yeah.
So but we've always done that where my focus is like, hey, waking up, being at the kids, taking them to school, whatever, getting that time. And then I'm off and I'm grinding in the day, coming home, family time,
Yep.
dinner, and then they're going to bed. And sometimes I'm back on the computer, you know, catching up on those emails, going
Yeah.
through financials, doing all those things. And sometimes I'm up till 1 or 2 in the morning, you know, just to go back to sleep and start all over again. Right.
Yep.
So we've all been there.
Talk to me about like life growing up. Mom, dad, family.
You know, that's what's weird. Blue collar business. So growing up, I wouldn't say like early years, yeah, definitely poor, right? Like we didn't have a lot when I was little. As, you know, we kind of grew up, you know, things got a little bit better. But my dad, blue collar, owned a furniture repair and refinishing business. So just taught us hard work from like a very young age.
Yeah.
You know, me and my brothers, we'd go work for him, you know, little, going to his shop and doing work.
How many brothers?
I have 2 brothers and a sister. And we would go there,
Mike and
Brad, and I have a
Brad.
sister, Ashley.
Okay.
But we would, you know, we'd hang around the shop, even like 7, 8 years old. My dad would be taking us to the shop and he'd be showing us.
I freaking love that.
I mean,
there's some magic about like you just observing dad working.
Oh yeah. Well, he would pay us too throughout. Like I was 8 years old, right? And he'd be like, "Hey, I'm going to give you 50 cents or whatever to clean the office there," where you have to vacuum the office and organize the papers and do this. He'd show me. You remember the credit card machines back in the sliders? You'd have to slide it. Oh, he would show me when a customer came in to pay for something, how you take the credit card down with the carbons and slide it, you know, and learn to operate a fax machine and all that kind of stuff. So maybe subconsciously being an entrepreneur or business owner was kind of bred into me.
My wife is doing her MBA right now at BYU.
Yeah.
And, you know, was full-time mom for 20 years and then goes back. And it's been hard. Like it's my wife didn't study finance. She didn't study accounting. Like she did elementary education. So all of those hard skills, like completely stretching her to her limits.
You know what? Being a mom is hard and it's an underappreciated job. And if you can do that, then you can do the other things.
Insanely hard.
Yeah.
What I love is I love my kids seeing mom grinding.
Yeah.
I love my kids seeing mom say, I'm going to go try something that's really hard and I'm going to go get in the arena and like, I'm going to be gone for weekends because you know what I mean? And it reminds me a lot of your dad where it's like kids, you can tell them a lot of things, but like what they really capture is what you're showing them.
Oh, yeah.
You
For
know,
sure.
so it's that's so fun. So your whole family was kind of doing that all the way up. They were a part of that family business.
Oh, yeah. Like summers would roll around and all my friends would be out, going to the water park, screwing around, everything else. We had to go work for dad during summer, right? So, and part of it was at that time, my parents, I can't remember what age, but my mom started going to school as well. So we were like a one income, household.
Yeah,
She started going to school to BYU to nursing school. So, then it was kind of that whole, you're broke because you're paying for school and
yeah,
mom's going to get it. And then she graduated, got into nursing. So then you kind of go to like a two income household
got a little more comfortable.
and,
Yeah,
and paying off the debt and all that. But then, they're both working. And so, having to grind, right? That middle class kind of grind your way
yep.
up. And, we lived through that but always like hard work and everything. I mean, we were moving fireproof filing cabinets and stuff for my dad when we were 14 and, all that. When I was 16, the first week I got my license, my dad, said, "Hey, you got to go deliver this, desk up in Rock Springs, Wyoming." Got my license like 3 days before. And I'm like, "Wyoming, huh?" And he's like, "Yep. Here's the address." And back then, for anybody listening to this podcast, we didn't have GPS in your phone that would, take you there. And it was just like, here's the page from the phone book. Go drive to Wyoming and go deliver this. And, I'm like, all right, 16, drive all the way up to Rock Springs and get into town. And I got to call the guy in the phone book to be like, "Hey, how do I get to your house?" And he's like, "You go past this mile marker, turn at this fence post, you'll see a stop sign kind of a thing." And here I am, I'm like 16, like delivering this desk,
I
like,
freaking
2
so
days
like
after.
the thing that I love so much about that is you just become independent. You just get
Yeah.
confidence. Like doing that thing, it stretches you so far the first time. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like really past your comfort zone.
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden it becomes a muscle, you know?
Oh, yeah. So, life growing up was kind of like that,
Sounds
right?
like you had
Like,
great parents.
yeah, hard work ethic, so to speak, integrity, all
Yeah.
the foundational principles that we wanted to have. Grew up very, Mormon or LDS, so it was like faith and religion and hard work.
That
Those
was
were
the
all,
foundation.
yeah,
Yeah.
foundations of everything. But was good because it kept you out of trouble, so
Yep.
to speak. So that was all very good as far as like my upbringing. And
Yep.
and there was a high expectation and a high standard, right? That you were just expected to get good grades in school. You
Yeah.
were just expected to work hard. You were just
Yep. That was
expected
just who the
to
Hardles were.
yeah,
Like,
you were just expected to do sports and to do other extracurriculars and all those things. That was not like really an optional thing,
yeah.
right? I mean, they didn't really force us to, but it was just
There's
it
an
was expected,
there's
so
an
you just rose and you
expectation.
just did it,
Yep.
yeah. So that's kinda how upbringing was
So,
for me.
so you finished up high school, go on a mission. We were just talking about like the craziness in Mexico right now,
Yeah, yep.
but that was your mission.
My mission was crazier than most people. I mean, everybody has their stories, and we don't have to, like, do the whole but it was crazy on my mission, and same thing, talking about being stretched. I wouldn't be who I am today, and it's not a secret, like, I'm okay to talk about it. I'm not really an active practicing, member of the church or Mormon, these days, but I wouldn't be who I am without it. Like, I
Yo,
tell everybody, it was a great thing for me,
yo,
and very much love and appreciate the upbringing.
that foundation.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I wouldn't be who I am without it. And
yeah.
honestly, going on the mission was probably the best thing in my life for me because the way I got stretched on the mission, it was tough, man. I went to the middle of nowhere, Mexico. It was Tampico, Mexico. And I did not spend a whole lot of time in, I was in the middle of nowhere. I was in the ranch towns, middle of nowhere. They didn't even speak Spanish. They spoke a Nahuatl,
What?
like a foreign dialect. So like I would look at my companion half the time, like, "Did you understand?" Nope, nope. Okay. None of us can understand these people. I mean, I was riding the buses with chickens and all the stuff, starving, walking 18 miles a day in the sun, all the stuff. And the first like 2 weeks I was there in my mission, the branch president, which is kind of like the bishop,
Yep.
was excommunicated for committing sins, we'll just say. And suddenly the mission president's like, "Hey, Elder Hardle, you're the branch president too." And I'm like, "What?" I don't even speak Spanish really. So I suddenly had to run essentially the church operations there, right? And I had to, actually assign like who's speaking in church that week, what are the topics, extend callings to people. I had to go financially run it, collect all the tithing, go deposit at the bank, run the software system. And I'm like 19
That's incredible.
doing all that, right? In another country. So from then it was like public speaking, having to be a leader, train other missionaries. So you kind of just think about being in a foreign country, having to essentially teach and proselytize. And I think about the sales world. I mean, if you can sell religion, you can sell anything.
Oh my gosh.
And I think about being there, proselytizing, running a church, running operations for it, doing the public speaking. And whether I realize it or not, all those concepts translated into,
Entrepreneurship.
they translate
Yeah.
into what I do today. It
100%.
all just became natural to me
I
without even
was
realizing it.
talking to a kid the other day, and he's like, I'm just 50-50 on going on a mission. I was like, I don't know what to say other than like my mission changed my life. Like,
Well, I always tell people too that like I talk to kids in high school sports or going to prom or going on a mission or whatever it is, going to college, that there are certain things you can always go back to college, but there's certain things like reading a chapter in a book. You're there at a certain phase of your life. You have that opportunity to do that or don't do that. But once that time passes, there's things you just can't go back and do again.
Yeah.
And so it's like you just have to think about life that way.
those windows.
Yeah, it's just once that opportunity closes,
Yep.
you don't get a do-over, a chance to go back.
And so you come home off the mission, like really awesome experience, grew like crazy. You said like completely stretched you.
Oh, yeah.
Where'd you go from there?
So from there, I mean, beyond just normal screwing around stuff of, brothers riding bullet bikes and cars and, all the stupid crap you do when you're in your, teens and younger 20s.
Yep.
From there, it was, and same thing. So even growing up, like my dad and I, we flipped a couple cars. Like I didn't have a traditional, I would work for my dad. He was like a horse trader. We would drive by the side of the road. You see an old Mustang, for sale for $5,000. We'd go buy it. I'd help him fix it up, clean it, change the spark plugs, clean up the carburetor, put a new air filter on it, sell it for $7,500, right? Make $2,500
So cool.
in 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
We would do that. Well, so I saved up enough money to buy my own car before my mission. So sold it, had my own car.
Yep.
They saved it. So I came home from my mission. I had my own money sitting in an account, and like my parents never gave me anything. Like once I was like, 16, 17, I just paid for everything on my own. I was financially
independent.
Yeah, independent at that point. So when I came home from my mission, I had money in the account already, and it was like, okay, well, lived at home with mom and dad, but they were like,
go time.
Go find a job.
Yeah.
So just weeks later, I started getting a job doing sales at like, I think it was Trugy Chemlon. It was a sales job where you'd go by trying to sell them like fertilizer,
Okay.
kind of stuff like that. Started doing it for a little bit. I'm like, man, this sales job kind of sucks, Didn't like it. My brother Mike had gotten a job at Comcast doing door to door.
Yep.
And he's like, your job sucks. I was like,
Who
your
did
job
you work with over there?
What was that?
What was the company?
It was Comcast at first.
Oh, like direct Comcast.
Before it was Xfinity or anything else. It was like AT&T had just, gotten acquired by Comcast. And so what happened is when Comcast made the AT&T acquisition here, they fired everybody and laid everybody off, and then they reopened all their positions for hire. And so at that time, my brother Mike applied, got in one of their sales gigs, and he's like, oh, dude, I can get you a sales job over here. It's great. So I'm like, great. Yeah, dude, put me in for an interview. This triggering Chemlon job, it sucks. So before you know it, I'm interviewing over at Comcast, get a job at, 21 to be going door to door at Comcast, but it was great. I mean, even back in the day, most of our peers were in their 40s, 50s. It was a good gig, right? Door to door.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the day, I was making, 80 to 100 grand a year at 21 years old.
Wow.
With tuition reimbursement and benefits and everything else. So I think part of it is too, I had my current wife, I don't know if I told you this, but I met her at a steak dance when I was 14, and she wouldn't go on a date with me for years, like years and years. Like I'm persistent. It was like not until I was like 19 about going on a mission.
5 years of getting denied?
Yes. Yes, I wore her down,
That's
all right?
amazing.
So, I finally got her to go on a date with me when I was 19. She stayed with me, like, every night pretty much or every day until I went on my mission,
Yeah.
and she dated people while I was gone, but when I came back, she was there.
It
So
was game on.
I think having, like, that
Structure.
yeah, and having that well, I was telling everybody, if you got a baddie, you wanna, be your best version of yourself.
Yep.
It's gonna attract something. So, you also have skin in the game, right? You have that woman, that life you wanna build and create for yourself. So, I always had her too. So, I had jobs immediately from when I came home, got that job at
You
Comcast.
always made great money.
Yeah, so, like,
Yeah.
I had that job at Comcast, like I said, making 80 to 100 grand a year at 21.
Yeah.
And my wife now, she was, a phlebotomist and doing, like, medical assisting, and she
She's
was
killing
making
it too.
money. Yeah, she was probably making 40, 60 grand
Yeah.
a year. We were 21, married, making that, having benefits, tuition reimbursement, all the stuff. It was great.
Yeah.
And so life was great. I mean, this is 20 years ago,
Yeah.
right? So how many couples, 20 years ago were making 150 grand a year with benefits?
It's crazy how much our lives parallel. Because that's always been my life. Like I was, resourceful before my mission. I remember my dad helped me buy my first apartment when I was 17.
17, that's awesome.
He was a real estate agent, and I remember he gave me this book, Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Oh yeah,
and I'm
Robert
like,
Kiyosaki. I've read that.
And I'm like, well, could I buy one? And he kind of laughs at me. He's like, oh. So he had a guy selling his house, and he's like, hey, my son wants to buy a house. Do you want to sell or finance it to him? And the guy's like, okay. So the guy literally like zero money down sells me this house, put a renter in it, paid me like $200 to $300 a month, which back then was $2 to $3 million.
Cash flow.
It was all, and came back off my mission, sold the house, made 15 grand.
It's just like the deed was just the collateral while he seller financed.
Yeah, he just literally like he was the bank.
Yeah.
But I came home off my mission, learned to sell. And from that point, I just never didn't make money. I had that skill set of knowing how to go create revenue. And you can go into this, but for me, psychologically, the confidence that it gave me to take risk was so helpful in my life.
Oh, yeah.
Because I always knew, like, if
you bet on yourself.
If this doesn't work, I'll just go sell and make money. And so there wasn't like I'm gonna crash and burn,
Yeah, well, it's always me against me, right? Like if I can choose between betting on myself or betting on somebody else, I'm gonna go bet on me because I at least can control it.
But I think that's scary for a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like I don't think everybody's built like you.
Yeah, probably not. Because I would take the risk, 10 out of 10 times I'm gonna go bet on myself. That's what we do as entrepreneurs.
But was it always that way? Like was it like that way? Like was there ever a mentor? Was there ever somebody that pushed you to dream bigger or like
not that so much, but what kind of blew my mind is, for a while, like there was this moment where you thought like, boy, if I could make like $200,000, like life would just
would be it.
Awesome. Yeah. Right. Like, especially when you're younger. Right. And even right now I talk to young kids who are like, oh man, my dream is to get this supercar or make $1 million or something like that. And, not to like joke about that show Succession, but it's like, Greg, that's poor, like having $1 million isn't what it used to be, right? That's, but when you're young and you're in a certain place, all you can think about is like that next step or that next level. And so, like when I was at Comcast trying to figure out my way, like I was married, working, still going to school part-time. I was going to Salt Lake Community College, taking those classes. And at that time I was on track. I wanted to get a degree in finance or economics. And I really wanted to finish up my generals and transfer to Westminster. Like that was
your plan.
That was the plan.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a great plan. Right. And then I met this guy, Randy, who he beat me on the sales team. Like I would always do great. I was like second in the sales. Randy would beat me every freaking month. And after about 2 years at Comcast, Randy was a lot older than me, like by 20 years. And, think about dynamics. You get comfortable in a workplace, you hang out with people kind of your same age group or whatever. But I kind of befriended him and he was cool to me because eventually, and I felt like I was probably like a little bit of a young, cocky, we'll call it like that, the sales bro mentality.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, here we're in Utah County, right? The capital of the sales bro, world maybe. And that was probably me 20 years ago,
I love the sales bros.
right? Um, that was probably me. And I kind of chummied up to this guy, Randy, and was just like, hey, like, I just gotta like ask you, like, how the freak do you like beat me every single month in sales? And he's just like, ha, he kind of laughs and he's like, I don't even care about this job. I'm like, what are you talking about, man? We make good money here. And he's like, no, I only stay here for like the stock options and the health benefits. I make all my money selling insurance. I'm like, whoa, well, how much money you make? He's like, go get your license and I'll tell you about it. And he was like, what do you mean? Like health insurance? He's like, go get your health insurance license. And I was like, okay, that was it. That was the only instruction I got from Randy was just go get your health insurance license and then come talk to me. Period. So of course I go home, and it wasn't that long ago. We had the internet, you know, it might have been dial up or something, but like I'm back home, like dialing that night, like Google search, how do I get my insurance license? And I end up ordering like a book online through Kaplan with like a CD-ROM to, or like an audio disc to listen to. And before you know it, I'm knocking doors and I have like the disc in my CD player, like listening to,
Wow.
you know, audiobooks on how to get my license, like while I'm going to school, taking microeconomics and anatomy physiology and everything. So, you know, learning to get a health insurance license was, you know, it was easy. So I studied for like 2 weeks, went and took the test, got a 71%, which is good enough. You know, get your health insurance license, it's a 70%,
So great.
multiple guess, you know. So I'm like, this is multiple guess. I'll be all right. It doesn't matter if you get a 91 or a 71. A
You're
pass is a
in.
pass,
Yep.
right? So I got my health insurance license, call back up Randy. I'm like, hey, man, I got my license. He's like, oh, all right. So before you know it, he's taking me to a brokerage the next week and getting me appointed to sell products for United Healthcare, right? And so that's really how I got into it.
Is that going to blow your mind sometimes?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I think about these coincidences that change the course of your life.
Yep.
And it kind of scares me sometimes because I'm like, what? That was a crossroads, and it ended up being like a very impactful
Very much so.
crossroads.
I mean,
And you didn't have that much to do with it. You know, you had a little bit. You were
yeah,
curious enough to ask the question and
yeah.
resourceful enough to go do the work to get the, you know, but you just got somebody that had paved the way, you know, kind of took you
Oh,
by
yeah.
the hand.
Oh, yeah. Well, and this guy, he didn't have to, but I ended up stumbling into a life relationship of somebody. And the one thing I would tell people listening is most people who are successful uh, are very open to helping others. That a lot of them have like this real generous mindset that they
Yep.
want to help others succeed. And he's that way. He's a guy that would give you the shirt off his back. All you have to do is
generous.
ask. You just
Yep.
have to ask. And even to this day, we have a real special relationship with Randy because I wouldn't have ever found my way into this career had I not. And it was funny because the only training I ever got, even in insurance, was he was like, he got me appointed, and you know, you fill out all your backgrounding information to get appointed to sell insurance products. And then as soon as I had a writing number as an agent, he gives me a book and he's like, here, read this book and study it a little bit. This is how an insurance plan works. And I was like, what do I do? He's like, I'll give you a list of people to call and you just cold call and get an appointment to go meet with them and talk to them about their insurance. I was like, okay, get a list, start calling on the sheet, go to do an appointment. And I called him the next day and I was like, Randy, I had an appointment. What do I do? He's like, okay, all you got to do is just walk through the book, start, explain it to him. And then at the end, there's sign him up at the end. That is it. That's all the training I got, period. So I just had to like really figure everything out as I went and start like reading, like, what is an HMO plan? What is a PPO plan? What does a network mean? What is a drug formula? I don't know any of this stuff, right? So I just had to completely figure it out on the fly. I did sell my first appointment too that I ever went to.
That's so sick.
Closed it. And then like everything, I was like, Randy, I sold this app. What do I do with it? He's like, oh shit, good deal.
You actually did.
You know, he's like, you sold it. Okay.
I'm not expecting you to have any success.
Yeah. And then he's like, what do I do with this now? He's like, there's a fax number in the book. You got to dig up that fax number and fax it in. So then I'm like, I'm faxing in this app. And so like everything was just more of like, well, now what kind of a thing. And that's all I got. But the best kind of full circle story to all of it is over the years, I became really friends with Randy, the bond, you know what I mean? And to this day, like he actually, when I started my agency in 2012 and started growing it, he eventually became one of my insurance agents and moved his contracts over, and he's been doing business through my firm for the last 10
Still
years.
doing it.
Yeah, still to
That's
this
so
day.
great.
And he's been doing business through my firm for over 10 years
How
now.
special is that?
And and we have that special relationship. I know his wife, his family. We talk on a regular basis, and we've just had that a very different, because the age different. He's in his 60s, and we just have that very unique, special relationship.
I get a lot
still.
of that in my job now because, we do investing and you just end up, connecting with really amazing people that have been successful in their businesses that an investment's kind of a fun thing to come together, and you look at a deal and you get curious about it. And if you like it, you write a check, but it's like this reason to go work together and catch up. And, a lot of these relationships are relationships I've had for a long time, and so anyway, that the Randy story is fun for me because it's the circle of life of you're this young kid. And he probably seemed really old to you, and he wasn't that old. He's
He was
like
in his 40s.
He's your age,
I know.
But back then he's like this old man, and
for the kids graduating high school and figuring out college, I'm old. Probably.
No, but then you go full circle, and now he's a partner of yours, and
I think it doesn't mess with you necessarily mentally, but I think that deep down inside, I recognize that I wouldn't be successful or be where I'm at today had I not at least had that connection.
100%.
And it also kind of builds in you that that giving, that circle of life, and that karma perspective of, hey, I need to be able to be charitable with my time too, and giving, and find young people and do everything that I can. To help those people.
Yep.
I've been the beneficiary of that in my life, and I need to return the favor.
You've got
to
to have tremendous opportunities to do that within your work.
Absolutely.
The sales training you've done over the last 20 years got to just be endless and insane. It's kind of a never ending process of mentorship and coaching and helping,
Absolutely. It's very nuanced in our space. I mean, sales is sales, right? There's the concepts of relationship building, right? And the rapport building and your A to Z and getting your close. And there's all those sales concepts that are very universal. And then there's always the very niche things very specific to our industry. And and I've trained, when I say thousands of agents, I've trained thousands of agents. I've personally sold thousands of Medicare policies to consumers myself. So usually when I'm training somebody, it's like, I'm only saying this because I've gotten in the car.
You're speaking out of experience.
Yeah, I've driven to the home 2 hours away, sat on the front porch and closed the sale myself. So
100%.
It feels different when you've actually done there. You've walked that path yourself. So I do speak from experience there. And what I'm finding is over time too, what I'm training people on is very different, because the industry, like a lot, has changed, particularly in the last 5 years. COVID and a lot of money being printed, and the way that PEs worked over the years, it's very much changed the landscape of a lot of industries. And so what I'm training people on is different now than it was 5 years ago, and how to grow their business and what to do with their business. So
that makes a ton of sense. I want to. This one's a fascinating subject for me. I want to talk about kind of the philosophy of personal finance, because me and you talked about that, and that there was a lot of years where you lived lean, where you poured all of the profits, and you could have lived bigger, but kind of reinvested and reinvested and reinvested. And, I want to kind of see how you and your wife got to that point, because even when you're 21, 22 and she's a phlebotomist and you're making good money, you're actually taking a lot of money off the table every year. And that switch from I'm the consumer of a lot of the profits from the business, or to no, every dollar that I take out is a dollar that I don't reinvest to go grow this thing.
Absolutely.
Talk to me about that switch, and even kind of the conversations with your wife, and how you guys got there.
This is the rough part of it. This is the hard part of the episode, right? When you talk about those tough years, we'll call them the dark years. Those are the tough years. When you talk to most people who are successful, you think about, the picture's famous of Bezos sitting in his office, with the Amazon sign written in cardboard, right? We've all seen that picture, right? But that grind is actually very real for most people, and it changes you living through those years. It's tough. So if you kind of rewind like my story to 2007 is when I got my insurance license. 2008, everyone, you can think about the 2008 time of crisis. There was a lot going on in the financial markets in 2008, right? So it's just, but when you're in it, you don't really realize everything that's going on, right? Especially when I was that young and naive. But, I went and had this opportunity. I found that as I started to do insurance while working at Comcast, and so here I was in that period of time where I was married, going to school, working at Comcast, but then also starting to do this side gig of doing insurance. My son was also born in 2007, my son. So then my wife was pregnant. We were expecting. And so we went from a 2-income household to a 1-income household, which that's a topic as far as personal finance to help young people prepare for, because I did not ever have the proper, training and mentorship for that.
Of course.
Right? That's a big deal. So here I was at this crossroads of my life, finding insurance as a side hustle, but really liking it and saying, I think I'm good at this and I like this and I could make this into my career. But my Comcast job was the stability and the health insurance and paying the bills and all the things. And my wife just, quit her job.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I want to do this insurance thing. So that was like the big cojones.
Scary. Yeah, like scary.
That was the moment of my life that, now I am where I am, but I realized that scary, terrible moment is what changed my whole life.
Yeah.
And I realized at that time, I remember United Healthcare had a job open up. It was called an independent sales rep, an ISR. And it was to go and be an employee for United Healthcare, selling as an employee. And it was attractive to me because I wasn't getting crap for training as an independent. I was just learning whatever I could, reading whatever, figuring it out as I go. And I was making some sales, but not that much, right?
Yep.
And I'd been doing door-to-door at Comcast for 5 years, and I was, kind of like burned out. Doing door-to-door for 5 years is a long time for day in and day out. We're talking 8 hours or more a day for 5 years.
Yep.
You hit that burnout phase, right? So I wanted to go do this full time. And so I just remember this job opening up at United Healthcare, and it was a pay cut, and I'm like, oof, a $20,000 pay cut.
Do I want to do that?
Yeah. When I already lost my wife's income, right?
Yep.
So I'm like, oh, another $20,000 pay cut. So I went home and was like, hey, babe, like I want to go take this job, but it's $20,000 pay cut. Here she is, new mom, right? And just quit her job too. And she's like, if that's what you think is best,
she was just down.
You do it. So
how cool is that?
She supported me 100%. She was just like, hey, if that's what.
Has she just always been like that? Just like, I believe in you?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the things too that I tell people all the time. Like, look, I talk to a lot of young people because when you're successful, then they want to listen to you.
Of course.
When you're in the grind, you're an idiot, you're a chump, and everyone thinks you're a fool. No one they don't see your vision. They don't understand it. But once you're successful, then they're going to listen to you, right? Even when I was in the grind, she always believed in me. So
that's so special. Like, I really do. Like, I think back about me and Chelsea getting married, and I'm like, I had $300. That was my total net worth.
Yeah.
And I spent half of it on a ring.
Yeah.
So you can imagine what $150 like engagement ring would look like.
Yep.
And the other $150 was to pay for gas to go out to Des Moines, Iowa to go sell satellites. And somehow that plan in my mind was a really good plan.
Yeah.
And somehow she like said, yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's great.
You were a good sales guy. Yeah.
I must have been.
You must have been a good sales guy, right? But yeah, I tell young people, if your spouse isn't bought in,
of course,
it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Like I talk to young people all the time and I'm like, hey, here's what I want to do. Here's my business plan. I'm like, cool. What does your wife think? Or what does your husband think? Or whoever, what does your partner think? If they're not in on it and they're like, well, they're skeptical, they don't believe, I already know, like, not going to work because you're not going to be able to work the 60,
especially
70 hours
that entrepreneurial journey.
You're not going to
just so different.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to take the capital to fund the business that you need to. If they're not supporting it, you're never going to be able to do it.
Yep.
So, she was supportive when I took the pay cut to go do it. I worked at that job at United Healthcare for 6 months. And then I was back again going to my wife saying, you know what? I actually think I just want to quit my job altogether and have absolutely no income And it's just going to be we eat whatever I kill, and that's it. And I'm just going to go independent and be an independent insurance agent
Yeah.
after 6 months. And it was just kind of like, you're killing me because we just had our first kid. We're broke. I mean, we were broke.
Yeah.
And then, to go from, we were here, life, we were pretty high on the hog with
Yep.
2 incomes and this great lifestyle. And, we were headed on this great trajectory to, okay, hold on. Suddenly now we have a kid and I'm stay-at-home mom, and then you had a job and now you don't have a job, and now you want
It
to
gets
quit
lean.
and
Yeah.
go independent. Do you still think this is what's best? Then it gets really tough, right? Is this still what you think is best? And I remember I told her, I said, hey, I don't want to look back in 20 years or 30 years from now and live with the regret of like, what if?
Yeah.
That's what I told her. I was like, look, I would rather take the risk and just see where it can take me.
You're how old at this point?
When this was happening, I was 22. Oof. How old was I? 25? So
Young.
I was in my 20s. Yeah.
Young.
So, but I just said, like, look, I think part of it was I was in Medicare, right? And I was talking to old people, which I really like. I enjoyed it. That's part of the reason I got into it and loved it, is doing sales. You're always selling people, right? You're selling a product. You're selling this. You're selling what they think is a value or an end result that they want, and you're having to sell it. Well, when I was doing Medicare, though, I was just helping people. I was talking to people who had life experience. I was helping them save money. I was helping them understand. It was more of an educational transaction where I'm helping them. So it felt good, right? It felt very noble. I've always enjoyed it. What I was doing was valuable in helping people. And so I think talking to people from that generation who have a lot of life experience, it also helped me, right? To where I had that mindset of, I talk to a lot of old people all day, and they always sit there and, give you this life advice. But I actually took a lot of it and said, I don't want to live my life with all these regrets that you didn't take your shot.
Yeah.
So I just told my wife, I said, I don't want to live my life wondering what if or what could have been. And so she's like, okay. So quit my job at United Healthcare again after 6 months, went fully independent. And at that point, I was only getting commission if I sold a policy. And it was like, nobody told me how to go market. Nobody told me how to go lead generate. Nobody told me how to go do it.
Full blown,
it was
just
like
betting on yourself.
Yeah. And the one thing that I told everything I learned from Randy is he told me and taught me how to schedule out my weeks, where he also taught me about my mindset and said, Dan, you can do whatever you want. But he's like, when I get on the phone to cold call, I'm in shirt and tie. He's like, when I'm going to work, even if you're at home, I had to mentally be in the mode of like, I'm going to work.
He'd get his business attire on.
So he's at home at the kitchen table when he's cold calling, he'd get on shirt and tie, and that put him in the right frame. Like, I'm in work mode.
That's actually
like
crazy profound.
Exactly. So I did that. So that was one of the lessons he taught me was, and
That's
I would
so insightful.
Yes, I'd be at home in my little broke as hell. And I was at that stage of life as I was independent and building for the first 6 months where I was selling and it just was not enough. And I was selling, and we got to the point where I was in debt up to my eyeballs, and I had the medical debt from kids with no insurance and, medical stuff, surgeries, nothing like, I wasn't going on vacations. I had medical debt, right? I got to the point where I was so broke, I was having the utilities shut off.
It got that tight.
Didn't have a pot to piss in.
That's so special.
So we had nothing.
And you're still doing it. You're still shirt and tie.
Yep, we had nothing. And I was
getting business.
But look, if I had nothing, I had no money in the bank account, none. And there was one time that my father-in-law came over and he gave me like a check for $1,000 to help buy groceries and help pay rent, right? And so that was like, wow, $1,000, right? So anyways, I got to the point where we had nothing. But
isn't that like, that's like the good stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you think about like new kid, you and your wife, you're like grinding, and you got father-in-law that has the intuition to say, you need a little help.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
We were to the point where the dishwasher went out.
Oh my gosh.
And we couldn't afford to replace it. We were hand washing dishes for 2 months.
God, that's so good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because like people, they don't see that. They see the after effects. You know what I mean? They see the fruits.
Yep.
Like I think somebody would go talk to Dan Hardle today. would never know that,
Right.
that they would see this trajectory that's up and to the right and, never had those struggles. Like, I think there's a fallacy that we have when we see people who succeed,
Yep.
that it was easier for them,
Yeah.
for some reason. And I think that's been one of my biggest takeaways doing this podcast.
Yep.
Is it's not for anybody.
No, it's
You know what I mean? That
when
there's a price to be paid for success, and it's a real price.
Yeah, that's the hard part of the business I have a hard time talking about. I try not to get too emotional because you've probably been there. I know you've had similar stuff, but you really talk about the dark days when I didn't have water, calling the water company to be like, "Hey, I've got a little kid. I just need the water on." It's tough.
Just humbling.
Mm-hmm.
Like I remember we had this, we worked for this satellite company, and it's 2007. Company goes bankrupt.
Yep.
And we worked the whole summer, and I recruited mission companions, brother-in-laws, no back ends.
Mm-hmm.
So we did all the work for, a whole year, no back ends. And like I'm a 24-year-old idiot that had, some success too fast.
Yeah.
In a real estate market that was just white hot. So it's like we're building our second home.
Yeah.
$1 million house at
House
24.
of cards.
That thing was supposed to be worth $1.1 million the day we finished it. It was just everything was up and to the right.
That was back when you started it, and by the time it was done, it would appraise, and you would suck out that equity.
Yeah, hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
And we actually experienced it once. So we're like, oh, if it works at 300, it should work at $1 million.
Yeah.
So all the stuff kind of blows up. The economy blows up. The music stops on the house, the mortgage. And so me and my wife, I remember calling the bank and telling them, hey, your loan is for $750,000. They're telling me the house is worth $550,000. Like, we can't do long-term financing. And I lost my job. And I'm driving to Texas, Austin, to go do door-to-door sales. What do you want me to do? And the bank, super cool. It's this, I don't know if they're still in business. I think the bank out of Omaha. And they're just like, hey.
Short sell?
They said, hey, just don't foreclose on it. If you short sell, we'll work with you. And they were super cool. And, we worked through it. We end up selling the house. But it was humbling. I'm going to my wife, and we're building our dream home. And then I'm like, hey, babe, we got to go.
Fortunately, you got a dream home later on in life. It just wasn't, the plan wasn't exactly how you drew up the first time.
Well,
right?
That's another like really important part of the story is I never would have got the rest of that life if the first phase would have gone easy.
It's hard to say that was actually, like, I hate using the term like a blessing in disguise or whatever, but but it ends up being that way. But at the moment, it feels like a big punch in the gut.
The craziest gift, Yeah. I think a lot of it, I actually thought about this a lot, thinking back retroactively. I was too prideful to be a door-to-door salesperson. Like, and I shouldn't have been. Like, I'm blue-collar family, mom and dad working from Logan, Utah. But somehow in my mind, I was better than that work. And even when I was making good money, I couldn't wait to get on to the next business thing, And it took the economy melting down and us losing everything. And me having no skills outside of this one skill to realize, oh, wow, this profession is really valuable. And doubling down and going all in on it, it was the difference. But I think if I wouldn't have hit rock bottom so hard, I wouldn't have committed to the next phase of my career as, aggressively as I did, and it would have been a way different outcome. So you were there. You were rock. Well, when did it turn? When was it like?
I always say, like, look, the only way is through, right? The only way is through. There's no other way through it. Like, you push, the only way is through. And it's like one of our like mottos or slogans, that's it. So you just sell through it, right? Yep. You work through it. And so I did. And the bigger driver is I ended up living at the house in Sandy, I ended up short selling the house. Same thing as you're telling me that, we got to this point where, we got behind on payments, and actually when I pencil it out, I was selling enough, and not to get too deep and granular, but at the time, the government had just done this thing where they told the insurance companies, hey, you can't pay the full commission on these plans yet until we verify them, right? In our industry, there's a distinction on a commission between whether it's somebody's first time on Medicare
Yep.
or if you're just like updating their coverage or doing a plan change.
Yep.
It's a different commission type.
Yep.
And they said, hey, we're going to implement a new checks and balances where we want to validate your file before you pay the reps out that. And I'm like, okay. Well, it took 5-6 months for them to do that.
So you've done the work and you just couldn't get paid.
I had a backlog on a big chunk of money too. And it got to that point where, when I did all the napkin back of the envelope math, I should be fine. But I've got all this deferred money that I'm owed from all my sales, and it just wasn't coming and month after month after month. And finally got to the point where, same thing with the lender. I can't remember if it was PNC or SunTrust or who it was at the time, but I remember same thing, calling them and being like, hey, I'm ditching the house. Like, I can't make the payments. Look, I can put it on the market. I can short sell it. You'll probably lose 30, 40, 50,000 on it. But if not, it's going to go foreclose. Like, and they're like, all right, we'll take something for less. So I threw it on the market, short sold it, swallowed that last little bit of dignity that I had, that last little bit of pride. And we moved to a rental in Draper. And I rented there for 5 years as I completely just was growing the business, hustling, starting from ground up.
So raw.
Just year over year over year, just little kids, family, renting in that townhouse for 5 years. And I probably only needed to rent there for about 2 years, but we stayed there for 5. Like, that place felt like home.
I mean, we did the same thing. I remember I had a really successful summer.
Yeah.
And went and rented, paid cash for my truck, paid cash for I was so scarred from like that, that experience that I was like, I'm going to keep my expenses so lean. I'm going to go rent forever.
Oh yeah. Well,
that was kind of my feeling at that.
I think I'm still that way. Like, we talk about it a little bit. I still very much live within my means, we'll say, and especially my wife. I mean, my father-in-law, he's an oral and maxillofacial surgeon, and he's financially successful.
Does well.
And and my wife grew up that way. But going through that phase together, I mean, my wife was clipping coupons and all that kind of stuff back then, to where we got so lean on being so broke for so long that now
it's a habit.
I mean, you probably know my personal situation pretty well. My wife still asks me, she's like, am I okay to go buy this?
Like, babe, we're fine.
She'll still ask me, she'll be like, am I okay to go buy this? And to the point that, my wife has some nice purses, some handbags and stuff like that. She's never bought a one for herself. I've bought them for her because she won't even go spend the money on a handbag.
Well, we got to change it. Well, one of the experiences I've had, with me and Chelsea.
Yeah.
And I haven't met your wife, but like, it's been like really special for us.
Yeah.
Is I would always, we very much had traditional roles for a lot of our marriage. My wife was full-time mom. She was, man in the house, and I was out, working. And, and at different points, I would try to go through the finances with her, and it wasn't something she was crazy interested in.
Right.
And over the last couple of years, I think part of it's getting her MBA, but then part of it's us building out the family office.
I'm sure.
And it's me saying, if I get hit by a truck, you just have to, like, this has to be a family
have a
office.
handle on
this
it.
Has to be a family office. We got to have a team. And so we do it once a month where we'll have the team come over. We go through all of our finances, and it's turned into something that's special for both of us where, because she's building out our family foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And so like there's a philanthropic arm, we want to go build out, and that's something she's really passionate about. Good. So the money becomes much more relevant because it's like, well, let's put more over there so that I can go do more things.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, well, sweet. Let's budget it and let's go do it, So
I'm probably a little bit behind where you guys are, but same thing. I involved her in creating our DAF and those discussions, cool. establishing the purpose of the DAF.
Does she like it?
Yeah, she liked being involved in that. And she'll probably get more involved in that. And so she got involved in, with the estate planner and
Super
the
cool.
revocable trusts and, and everything else that we're doing with the estate planners and creating your wills and anyways. So
that's awesome.
she started to get involved with that and, appreciates that involvement.
Super cool.
So it's kind of me introducing her to those things that she's really liked as well.
Talk to me about, you said you got through it. You just went through it.
Yeah,
when did it start turning the corner? Because there was a point where, you built that business for 13 years and you talked to me, you said that there was a point where it flipped, where that you'd been spinning that flywheel so much.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it became kind of this engine.
Yeah, it was like so I had to do it personally with my own personal finances as an agent, right?
Yep.
And so I ended up, I would tell you, we had 4 pregnancies, and 3 of our 4 pregnancies, I was uninsured, right? So you talk about a guy that's in health insurance and you hear people, I had 3
cobblers, kids,
and in vitro and everything else that we did without insurance, so you think about, we had a lot of medical
expenses,
debt. Medical debt, right? When I had debt and I was having everybody tell me to file for bankruptcy, it wasn't because I was dicking around like you see everybody else doing, buying cars they can't afford, taking trips and doing all this crap. I had medical debt and stuff. So, I had so many people telling me, just file a BK and I was like, no, it felt like me, the wrong thing. It felt unethical.
Like you were quitting.
It felt like I was quitting, but it felt wrong to stiff somebody with a bill, and it felt immoral, so to speak. So I didn't do it. I didn't. And I got to the point where, first of all, I paid off 100% of my debt, every penny, every medical bill, anything that I owed money on, any vehicle. I got to the point where I paid off 100% of my debt. And then after that, I was really able to focus on the business once my personal was not in the
house
toilet.
was in order.
Yeah, once I had essentially a roof over my head and a house to live in, even though I was renting. But once I was in a place there where I at least felt like my family and my personal life was secure, then it was really like game on at the business. And then it became me continuing to wear both hats and do both, where I continued to produce as an insurance agent selling while starting the agency and growing revenues and recruiting and training agents. And what I ended up doing for about the first 3 years is then I kind of doubled my revenue, because I, at that point in time, had grown a good practice. I had a lot of clients. I had about 1,000 Medicare clients on the books.
That sounds like a massive number, but I just don't have any context.
Yeah, as a personal agent at the time, it sounded like a lot. 1,000 at the time, it was probably paying me about 180 to 200,000 a year in revenue.
Okay, so you had like this recurring stream that was growing.
Yeah, and then what I was doing at the time, I had that kind of in easy mode that was just recurring revenue. And then I was going and selling new policies as well. And then I was starting the agency, which, you kind of perform different services and agents. You go recruit, you go train, you're paid for other services for doing that. So then I had that. So I kind of went from 1 revenue stream or 2 to 3. And I kept doing that and wearing both the hats for about 3 years. And I didn't take a single div or distribution out of the business for 3 years. So all that extra money, it was like, and I actually took my renewals, which is about 180 to 200,000 a year. I lived on 120. So about 60,000 of my recurring revenue went to growing the business. All the new business that I generated from new sales went to fuel the business.
Wow.
And all of the business from the agency stayed in the business to operate and grow it too. And I did that for about the first 3 years before I took a single distribution. Then I finally started to say, okay, I need to keep growing this more. And it got to be too much to where I couldn't personally produce anymore. And I really needed to start bringing on more people to help grow and scale. And then that's when you kind of get into those, the economics, the time, and I need to spend my time scaling more than personally producing. And that's, you start doing that and it starts to yield big time after.
That's when the business,
that compound effect, like year over year after a few years. And then, you kind of hit these other milestones along the way where, one good part of the business was my brother Mike. He came into the business, years later. I got him into the insurance business. He got a license, started selling for a few years, but then he was also doing marketing. It took off. So he kind of left and went and did his marketing business for a few years, sold it, got a little bit of money from that. and then he came back into the business. And
Yep.
having him go grow his own marketing company, sell it, and then come back, he came back with some new
Way
skill
better.
sets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
new skills, new experience, even
Yeah.
new confidence, I would assume.
Yeah. So, I mean, the business was already on a great trajectory growing, and he came back in. And that also was a driver, because it was not only that, it was like you think about your bandwidth and capacity as like a leader and a business owner, but now I had more trust and an expanded
Yeah.
capacity with my brother there, who I trusted completely
Yep.
to, hey, I'm going to take these initiatives and grow this and go do X, Y, and Z and execute. We could divide and conquer and say, hey, like, you go to handle these ones. And,
Yep.
and we both have strengths and attributes that play well with one another.
Yep.
As brothers, we're very different people. Love my brother, and working with him has been, better than we even drew up. I think it's
So
worked
cool.
out better than we thought. Very similar to, you work with Eric.
Yep. I
know,
mean, it's really fun for me to work with my brother.
Same. I got to do it every day.
Because Eric's my big brother and he's my hero. I
Same.
remember like he was all state in basketball 2 years. I'm a little kid. I'm watching, big brother just tear it up. And I'm like, man, that's what I want to be when I grow up,
Dominate.
So it's fun to like actually like be able to do life together later on.
Oh yeah. We get to work next to each other every day. And so having that, it was helpful to continue to grow the business at a faster pace.
Yep.
And then you recognize throughout the years 2 other key employee hires. And some of the biggest drivers of the business have been it's the people.
Some of
right?
those key hires that changed the business.
They really are. I mean, you can go hire 20 employees, but you find those 1 or 2 were big drivers, right?
Yep.
And every company has those. And so I think that, it's been the real growth drivers of the business have been just that methodical, disciplined approach year after year after year.
Yep.
And maintaining that discipline and that trajectory. And then also, I'm not that patient, but you got to be really patient sometimes. If you try to force it, you're going to screw up the business.
Especially in your business, because it's sell cycles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it kind of is that compounding, that compounding wheel where it's like that base that you built, you should stack on that base the next year and kind of land and expand a new client and then go expand that relationship. And
yep. And if you're not in our business, you're screwing it up somehow.
Which is so beautiful. Like that, that is a beautiful business to be in.
Yeah, because in our business, you have the policy sales that you're making, right?
Yep.
Which it's almost like I was just making the relationship or relating it to real estate so much that like people do real estate and they take like the cash flow off of real estate, but then you have some tax benefits of real estate and you have the underlying asset, right?
Yep.
And so you can go cash flow something from real estate. And at the end of the day, if you ever want to go move on, you can still go sell it.
Yep.
And you've got an underlying asset as long as you've held it and it's appreciated.
Yep.
And it's kind of like our business with insurance. Like we have these policy holders and policies that are an underlying asset and they're paying you commissions every month and recurring revenue. And so you're taking that cash flow a lot like real estate, but you still have the underlying asset.
Yep.
The policy's there and they're there. And so it's a very, very similar business that way.
So it gets to the point where it's cranking. You're bringing in the key hires, you're bringing in your brother, you're bringing in the team. You're finally starting to build like a legit executive team.
Yeah. 2020, like we're there, like, right. We've been growing. And I think everywhere throughout the business, someone's been, I learn from mistakes. I just don't make the same mistake. The different mistakes. And throughout the way, like every business owner, I've been burned by people, many times, different ways. But, I'd gone through a lot of those early on business mistakes that you make. So from 2012 to about 2020, I had gone through most of those growing pains. I think every business goes through them. Whether they're, hey, you had handshake deals that weren't locked up and weren't contractual or weren't binding or good, or you trusted somebody too much, or you were too generous with some people, whatever that may be. I'd gone through a lot of those pains. And in 2020, I still remember, the Trump press conference of COVID, sitting around our office and being like, oh, damn, this is
a real thing.
Yeah. And I sent everybody home. I actually went to the bank. That day I got cash. I gave every one of my employees $1,000 and I was like, here's $1,000 cash for everybody. Go take care of your families. Let's see what's what.
So,
went and did that. And like 2 days go by and I'm kind of like, I don't know about this,
Yeah.
right? And within about a week, I'm like, "I'm going back to work, babe. I'm going back to the office." And she's like, "Okay. All right. Sounds good." And then I'm at the office just working alone. And after about a few more days, I just sent out an email to everybody. And I was like, "Hey, I'm back at the office working every day. I'm not going to do the stay at home thing. Don't care about, COVID. I had everybody sign indemnity waivers for COVID and just say, I'm back in the office working. If everybody wants to come in, come in." Every person on our entire team came back in.
I'm sure they were craving it.
100%. All of
Right.
our people, 100%. At the time, I think I only had like 10
Yeah.
employees. All of them came back in full stop.
Yep.
Um, and at that time, we decided we're going to open up a call center because most of what we had been doing at that time, we'd talked about running a call center. Most of what we had done at that time was traditional distribution,
Yep.
right? Like you think about solar or alarms or whatever. We had reps all over the country, in markets, at local health fairs, at the kitchen table, kind of in like the field, so to speak,
Yep.
working selling insurance. And so that was the moment I was like, well, damn, all these blue states, especially, they have all these rules where they're not allowing people to meet face to face and all this crap. So we're like, we're going to start a call center. We're doing it now. And it was like
Oh,
right then in
wow, that's
2020,
crazy.
it was just like a week went by and it was like, we're doing a call center. And so
COVID changed your business.
absolutely. And for the better.
Yeah.
And we immediately were like, okay, how do we do this? And I'll be honest, like everything, you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You figure it out as you
jump
go.
in.
And there's certain things in our industry where you have to get regulatory, you have to get opt-in, you have to get buy-in.
Yep.
Insurance carriers have to approve you. Fortunately, because I'd been around in the business and I try to teach young people this too, it's who you know and it's what you've done like over time, right? And
So you
because
had that kind of street cred.
because I had
Yeah.
that, like we have people all the time that try to get into our business and they're like, "Oh, I got millions of dollars. I got deep pockets. I'm just going to come into the business."
It won't do it.
It doesn't matter. You're not going to get into the rooms where the decisions are made.
Yep.
You're not going to be at the table talking to the decision makers. So I had some of that street cred and those connections, and I was able to get those approvals because they're like, "We know Agent Boost. We know your business. We know
Yep.
how you do business. We're going to approve you for this." And things were very just screwed up in the industry right then. COVID was crazy for a lot of industries. So they were like, "Okay, approved." And so we were trying to figure out tech stacks and what CRMs we were going to use and how to record calls. And we were figuring it out as we go, right? Seriously, but we did it. And we thought to ourselves, like we'll get to the point where our phone sales will, maybe we can get like 20% of our sales through the phone.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, fast forward, that was 2020. And I mean, 2026 right now, about 55 or 60% of our sales are
Wow.
telephonic. So, we absolutely flipped it to where about 55, 60% of our sales are telephonic now. And we never planned that it would be that way. And now we're to the point where we have two different direct-to-consumer brands. So we do all of our wholesale distribution to agents and agency owners throughout the country. But we have our Medicare Advocates brand for Medicare consumers, our Healthcare Advocates brand for regular health insurance. We do direct-to-consumer. We do our own lead gen. We have our own tech stacks. We have our own captive W-2 employed sales
Whoa.
team. We have
So you've gone from like, hey, this is an idea to
Right.
like, this is a capability. This is a strength of our business. Like this is what makes us different.
Oh, 100%. Because what happened over 5 years is I followed the path of the insurance companies. I was sitting here all these years performing all this work on behalf of United Healthcare or Humana or Aetna or whoever. And I just took a page from their playbook and I looked at how they do it and they go, well, Humana has career agents who are employees of theirs that sell. And, if they have a product that's not very great in some markets, how are they going to sell it? Well, if you're an employee, you kind of have to sell it.
Yep.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? So they have a strategy of diversified distribution or dynamic distribution.
Yep.
And they have their employees. And then they had these agents called meccas. And then they had these market point agents. And they had 3 different types of agents.
Yep.
And I looked at United Healthcare, and United Healthcare had their ICA agents and their ISR agents and their FMO agents. And I'm going, well, these big insurance companies who have smart people, they've all figured out these different distribution methods and channels,
Yeah.
and we need to develop our channels. So that's what we really
That's
did
so
starting in
sick.
2020.
Even just hearing that, like, it fires me up to think, like, this is just you noticing. It's
Yeah.
just like
No one taught me.
I'm like the biggest, like, Tony Robbins fan, but he talks about this concept. He basically said, like, this is the most important skills of your life. Number one is pattern recognition. It's just paying attention. What
can
is
see that.
Humana doing? What is United doing? Just paying attention, like just noticing.
Yeah, because if one thing was so great, they would just run with that and go all in.
For sure. But like
Right.
a lot of people don't. You don't even recognize a pattern. Like, oh, wow, they have multiple channels.
Yep.
But then he says the second one is pattern utilization, it's copying. So it's like, oh, sweet. We're just going to do what they do. They're pretty successful. Like, let's just do it. Like, it's not that complicated. And then he goes to the third one, and I'm interested to hear kind of what you say about this. He says, like, when you've done your job for 10,000, 20,000 hours, then you get to pattern creation.
Yep.
Where you take the stuff you did at Comcast and the stuff you did as an independent agent and the stuff you did starting your business and then this phone and then these, you take that and then you create something that doesn't exist anywhere else.
Yep.
Like where is that in your business, that pattern creation of taking the best of all of these things?
Yep. Right now, as we speak today, we get anywhere from about 20 to 40 new agents a week that onboard with our company.
Whoa.
Just new reps in addition to what we have, right, as it's growing. And a lot of that is because of the models that we've created. So going back to those channels, it was a learning process like anything. When I hired my first W-2 employee, I sucked at creating a comp plan for them and managing them and, building PMPs. And because before I was used to working with independent agents, right? Like they're like herding cats, independent agents are out doing whatever to grow their business. And I'm trying to tell them what to do to be compliant, giving them pointers. There's what you should do with your business, but they're doing whatever they're doing, right? With employees, it was very different, right? So I had to learn also like blind spots too. Like if you have an employee, like how do I take data and information in a carrier portal and then disseminate that to a team of people, right? And having to build all those PMPs and set good expectations and really truly tightly manage people was all very new for me. I had to figure all that out. And then our what we call like our captive kind of career agents that we have, that was a whole new channel creation too. And we had to learn as we go from that too. Like, we learned for a while where we were overpaying them too much of their commission up front. Kind of like other industries where you think about, someone goes and sells like an install of a system or a unit, right? Where if you advance them too much commission,
start getting charged back
exactly, clawbacks, chargebacks, all that. We had to start learning what was the right amount to advance somebody versus like how many of their installs don't go through. We found that in our business, we talk about accretion or effectuation rates and, you sell 100 plans, but how many of those take effect? If it doesn't take effect and stick on the books for 3 months, it never happened. Right. So we had to start learning like how much to advance agents, how much to hold back in clawbacks, kind of balance all that in their comp plans for a while. And that was the one thing when you talk about model creation and tweaking is that we found there's a whole segment of agents out there that they want to be insurance agents. They want to get into the career, but the way our business pays, the life cycle is terrible. Like the payments are terrible. If you go sell a health insurance plan right now, and I talk to a family here in Utah, and it's a husband and wife with a kid, that's great. I sell them a health insurance plan. It's going to pay me $20 per member per month.
Wow.
That's great. I'm going to get paid $60 for that sale. But if I write it today in February, it's going to go effective in March. I'll get paid for the first time in April. I'll get paid $60 in April for that. And then to try to get that cash over a long period of time, we had to look at that business and say, what's the lifetime value of every policy we sell? Like maybe on my average persistency is going to be 12 months or 14 months on a plan. Well, great. That plan that I just sold that pays me $60 per month, well, that's got a value of $720 over the life of it. So my work wasn't nothing, but just there's such a cycle on getting that cash.
Too long.
So we've had to find very unique methods to try to solve that problem for agents who want to get into the space and say, hey, maybe you start here as one of these agent types. You learn the business, you train, we'll pay you weekly or bi-weekly, we'll
Yep.
get you more cash, we'll do these things.
Because
But
what you're trying to solve for is what was so hard for you early,
Correct.
which is like the cash flow issue.
correct.
I'm doing the work. I'm killing myself. I'm actually making the sales,
Right.
but this thing just doesn't pay for 6 months and it's going to bankrupt my family.
Correct.
So
Yep.
like you're trying to like make it good enough that somebody can keep doing the business or they're going to quit. They got to go find something else.
Correct. And yeah, in our business, the way it works, the industry keeps getting more and more difficult, more nuanced. There's more compliance. There's more regulation. The products are a little bit more complicated to navigate.
Yeah.
And so it's calling and demanding for a higher, more capable and caliber of agent.
Yep.
But the problem is it takes a while to actually get that, right?
Yep.
Most people, when they start off and they're new, they don't know what they're doing. They become proficient after 6 or 12 months, but most people can't last.
Yep.
So we try to say, hey, what can we do to solve that problem for people to help them to get there? And we say, you focus on becoming a good agent, obtaining these skill sets, helping the consumer, doing a great job, and you be the best that you can be at that. We'll help solve these problems for you. And then just don't be a dumbass and blow all your money.
Yep.
Save it, and we'll help you kind of springboard into that other phase of your career.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of success in that.
So cool. And we could literally go on like the nuances like all day. Like,
yeah.
Like we could, but I don't want to like get completely chewed up there. Talk to me about leadership. Talk to me about like who, as you've gone from I'm a rep to
Yep.
I'm a single producing agent to I'm an owner.
Yep.
Like how would you describe your own leadership style? And then what have you learned to become a better leader? Because in my experience, when I watch people get caught up at different stages,
Yep.
they can be a really great single performer, but have a tough time managing a group of people or, I can manage a group of people, but I can't take that next step to like, it feels like you've navigated those different stages. And even now, like it's a completely different stage. You've got an equity partner. You're growing it. You're doing your own M&A. You're like, this is a completely different like
Yep.
career than this other business,
Yeah, I would say throughout the different phases, recognizing where you are now and where you need to be.
Yeah.
But the first thing in leadership that I always say, and it's not to try to be cliche, but that servant leadership is very, very important to me.
Yeah.
And I still to this day will tell everybody, I ask people to do things. I only ask them to do it if I'm willing to do it myself.
Yeah.
And to this day, I very much, just because who I am and how I grew up, it's about working hard and putting in the work. Even as a successful business owner now, I work my guts out. I just do. I work a ton. I probably work more than I should.
Yep.
But at the same time, I just go, look, if I'm asking people to give their best,
Yep.
I need to give my best.
Yep.
And so I have to lead by example. We joke when I talk to the agents and said, look, if you're going to go into battle, you need somebody to lead you into battle that you're going to be willing to go behind, right? So I still have that mentality from a leadership perspective of saying, I'm still working my butt off. I'm leading from the front. I have to stay in front of all these changes in the industry. I'm traveling like crazy. I'm working late nights. I'm still doing all the things to run and operate the business and do what's needed.
Because you got great financial incentive to go make this a great outcome for your partner.
100%.
But you also have like a stewardship, that feeling of like, hey, we're going to smash this thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think it's those two things combined. But there's also like, there's a lot of people who are in your shoes that like take their foot off the gas.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
But I still have that ambition, right?
Yeah.
Like we all like
That hunger.
people who are motivated,
Yeah.
you still want to be the best. Like
Yeah.
I wanted to be the best agent I could be. I wanted to be, when I was a little agency here in Utah, I wanted to be the best agency or the biggest here in Utah.
Yeah.
I wanted to be, you always have that drive or that
Just
motivation.
driven. Yeah.
Yeah. And I still have that same ambition, but I think that people want to follow, people who they respect. And so I still put in the work. I want to be that leader.
Yep.
And then I think the other component to that is, being humble and still recognizing that you don't know everything.
Yep.
And wanting to learn from other people. A lot of times when I sit down with even some of my own partners, like we sub-distribute out to other agencies, And sometime I'm going into meetings saying, like, how are you solving this problem? What tech are you using? What stack are you using? How are you doing X or Y or Z? I'm picking their brains just as much as they're picking mine.
100%.
And I'm still trying to learn. And I go to conferences and conventions and talk to peers. And a lot of them were bigger then and more successful then. But that's not to say that they're not phenomenal industry or business leaders as well.
Yep.
And I'm picking their brains and just trying to solve these problems and asking them and being very willing and open and giving as well. But I think that that's where I gain a lot of my knowledge is just absorbing and talking to other people.
Yeah.
So from that leadership perspective, I think that's my mantra.
Yeah.
And I would tell you the other thing is I need to continue to develop all those around me. And part of that leadership is identifying who actually like what's their ceiling?
Yeah.
Who's around me that I can go pull their attributes and their skills, and who can I go elevate and augment and make them that much better? Part of what I want to do in life now is, you know, you think about that saying of the high tide and it rises all
Of
boats,
course.
right? I want to see who's around me that I can elevate and bring them a lot of success and opportunity as well.
Yep. So fun. Last couple more questions.
Yeah.
You dropped out of college.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of your typical entrepreneurial story. Drop out, go build a business. We haven't known each other crazy long, but what I've observed about you is that education is really important.
Yeah.
And that you are like a voracious consumer of the best books, the best podcasts, the interviewing, observing. Talk to me about like your philosophy on education.
Yeah, it's we're in such a cool time where there is knowledge and information everywhere. We're spoiled, right? I mean, if we even look back to 20 years ago, 30 years ago, if you wanted to get a great higher education, it was, go to college,
Yep.
right? Pretty
Yep.
much. And, this is a very typical conversation at the dinner table for us. My wife and I just went back and put our foot down and reinstituted our everybody's going to get off their devices and you're going to read for 15 minutes before you go to bed at night. Right.
Super cool.
And, like my middle son, he wanted that Patrick Bet-David book, Choose Your Enemies Wisely for Christmas, and he's 16. And, some of my kids, they'll read Forbes or something before they go to bed or whatever. Sometimes they're reading, novels, fiction,
But
whatever.
they're seeing that like,
yeah. But mom,
learning is important, you guys.
Correct. And mom is a reader. So my wife, she loves to read and
Yep.
she is smart as a whip. My wife is very engaged. She knows everything going on in politics. She could tell you what bills are going through in the local house right now.
Wow.
I mean, she is very involved in that. She's very much like a reader. So, and she
Yeah.
probably reads 3 to 5 books a month.
Whoa.
My wife does.
So she's like a voracious.
Absolutely. So she's reading constantly. And me, just because of work and business, I don't really get a leisure read as much, but I'm reading publications, novels, articles. And it's more about, CMS, like Medicare will come out with regulations as they do all the time. And there will be a 200-page document that drops or 500 page, and I'll have to go through and not just read it at surface level. I've got to, with my ADD, slow down, read it 2 or 3 times, make sure I really understand it well, and then understand what those words mean from a concept perspective and go, okay, what is this actually saying or doing to my business and how is it impacting it, right? So I'm having to read those kind of documents. And that's the thing about education right now is I get emails in my inbox all the time. Attend this webinar, come to this, whatever, learn this on risk management. Here's a seminar being done by a legacy or a financial planner. Here's this.
Yeah.
So there's all these opportunities for me to go, but I have to be the one to say, yes, that's actually a topic that is good for me. Let me go learn about it.
Yep.
That's how I've had to learn about a lot with investing, family offices, estate planning. I didn't know what private credit was years ago. I had to learn about that.
So
I didn't know what LIBOR was or like the SOFR rate. I mean, I had to go learn these things.
Yep.
I didn't know what I think I told you this. I didn't know what drag along rights were or tag
But
along
it doesn't
rights.
feel like that was something that was so impressive to me is like you were going through your transaction
Yep.
and you were going through like you're getting a legal doc and then you're, using AI and you're,
Yep.
best, attorney, but you're going and getting educated. You're not just like saying, I'm going to go along with this.
Yep.
You're going in, you're saying, I'm going to learn these concepts. I'm going to go learn what drag along rights and tag along rights are. I'm going to go learn what,
Yep.
a preferred equity is, what's the preference.
What's a common class? Do we have this? Are there any?
100%, the stock pools and all these things. And it's just like,
Yep.
I've admired that about you and just wanted to ask you, like, was it taught? Was it, mom and dad? Was it a mentor? Was it just something that you just always had this hunger, this drive?
I think I just observe and
Okay.
learn, and it's just I'm always paying
I
attention.
think that's your superpower. Like I'm observing you and I'm saying you're really good at just noticing what's working and what's not working.
Yep.
And then doing that. Like it takes like an element of curiosity. It takes like an element of humility. And it's actually like a really like incredible, characteristic that you have. I don't know if you've ever noticed that about yourself, but like it's really special.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. I appreciate that. I do pay attention to every little detail. Maybe it's because I've always been in sales.
Yeah.
But I notice everything. Like people don't know, but I notice when I'm interviewing people if they're fidgeting. I notice when somebody comes in late for work night. I don't say things most of the time because if people are getting their crap done, I'm off their
You're
back.
paying attention.
But I know everything. I know when people come in late. I know when they've had a late night. I can tell like every little detail. And I think all those things matter.
Yeah.
But, and just like education, I just have to sit there and think to myself, if I want to be the best, I have to do the best, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I have to make myself the best version of me. And, I'm again signing up for webinars that may seem boring or whatever. And I taught my kids this. I said, look, most of the meetings that dad sits in on, 90% of it is crap. It's not useful. 90% of it. There's those nuggets though. There's those little pieces of information you got to pay attention to still. And, I'll sit in a conference all day, fly across the country and go to some conference and very dry, very boring, but there's those couple nuggets you take notes of.
Yep.
And that's what makes a difference. And that's how you become better over time is I did that. And then the next week I learned something on a webinar and the next week something. And that education just like compounds over time.
Yep.
And that's what makes somebody that much better than their peers.
Yep.
And so we've been instilling that in my kids now that they're old enough is saying, hey, I don't care. Like education's important. If you go the formal college route, that's great. I think it's a good experience. Even learning from your peers and having that life experience, you should do it.
Yep.
They don't have, a track of, hey, I'm going to go be an engineer yet or a doctor or, nothing like that. But they haven't totally made up their mind if they're going to go to college. And I said, that's fine if you don't. But I said, but keep in mind that even though I didn't finish college, I went. And there are classes that really helped me, like my business writing class, learning how to do a pro forma or how to write up an actual memo, like a corporate memo and that was a very useful class for me. Going and taking accounting basics and micro and macroeconomics.
As a business owner,
it helped me. Even if I don't have the degree, the diploma hanging on my wall,
skills.
It helped me. So I think I told my kids, now you're at the phase where I've taught them the other day how to take Grok and Gemini and take a document and say, hey, put this in here and then say, here's this attachment. Please break this down for me and tell me the most critical elements of this and then ask the follow-up questions to AI. And so we're kind of at that phase. It's learning how to become educated.
Yep.
And that's what I'm trying to instill in my kids now.
No, it's incredible. So I want to end with this. Me and you talked about faith. We talked about kind of this faith that your family had growing up. You've kind of transitioned, but faith that, is obviously still like super important to you.
Yeah.
Talk to me about like what faith means to you, what faith means to your family.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting this dynamic where, we do not attend like a church every Sunday or anything else like that. I would describe myself as somebody who's very spiritual,
Yeah.
more of somebody like I'm a deist, where I really do believe in a higher being, a higher power, a higher purpose.
Yeah.
Um, I've just had experiences in my life that feel very undeniable,
Yeah.
right? Of a higher power where you just can't, you just feel it to your core that it's not just all like, you're not just here, by some mistake. And I very much believe too in, concepts of karma. And I very much believe in an afterlife,
Yeah.
personally. And so I just think that while I don't have all the answers, I'm not a very big believer in structured religion,
Yeah.
for me at least. But I really I think that with religion, people get out of it what they put in it, right?
Yep.
Whether somebody is, Catholic or they're Buddhist or they're LDS or Mormon, they're there and they're imperfect people trying to become better.
Yeah.
And the common theme is they're trying to become a better version. They're trying to love and they're trying to serve.
Yeah.
And I think that's great.
But I think that was my takeaway when we chatted was you're a very faithful person. Like you exercise faith. Entrepreneurship is faith.
Yeah.
It's
taking that blind leap.
Yeah, it's taking that leap, but it's believing. It's believing in yourself. It's believing in God. It's, that you're going to get through it. That if you keep going, you're going to get through it. And, I felt that there's like that faith is this principle that's really important to you. And I was interested to hear kind of how that fits today in 2026.
It is. And we're still, look, even my kids, they're at that age where I have a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old, and I leave my kids in their group me with the local church and we'll get texts and they'll call me, and I have a really good relationship with all of our neighbors in our neighborhood and our community where, they'll call me and be like, "Hey, Dan, like, look, your son, he's what we call our priest group." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know what the priest group is. Of course I know what it is." They're like, "Do you want us to invite him to activities?" I'm like, "Yeah. Like, look, if it's testimony meeting, he's probably not going to go. But if you're going to go shovel walks for the nursing home, he'll go. Like, we're good at that, So we really do like to have those opportunities to
Community.
serve, to be better, to be part of something too.
Yep.
I mean, we as people, we're very tribalistic too, and you want to belong and be a part of something.
Yeah.
And so I think that we look for opportunities still as like a family where we can be involved and be a part of something, where we can identify and be part of a community, where we can still have that. And I think just serving other people, dude, it's good for the soul.
Super special. Hey, well, fun sitting down. I look forward to having this conversation 2 to 3 years from now of that next phase of building out the family office, taking this business that you built with a new financial partner and taking it to that next level. And it'll be fun to just kind of watch your journey because you're still in it. You're in the arena. Like you're not you're not done. You're absolutely like still building it. And it's fun for me,
I was drawing up battle plans this morning, man. It's
so
got
cool.
the roadmap
Yeah.
and very exciting.
Thank you for coming.
So yeah, man, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
This podcast is brought to you by Sandlot Partners.